Jerusalem, Jerusalem,
Dad, please stop singing.
Is it really bad?
You're terrible. You're so out of tune. Our cat Jemima has got her paws over her ears.
Oh, I'm sorry. Probably I'm singing quite sad because these are very sad times, you know. I can't quite believe what's happened.
I know they're really sad times and yeah. Well, it's obvious what's happened, isn't it?
Is it? I mean, Solomon's done some good things, hasn't he? I mean, he's got all those chariots and those horses to make our army strong so that countries like Egypt won't attack us.
He did have all those chariots and he thought he was powerful.
Yeah.
But the problem is all those wives he married.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But then he married Pharaoh's daughter to start with because, again, that was a good alliance with Egypt. You know, good friendship with Egypt, wasn't it?
But God gave Solomon wisdom. And he was meant to act wisely and follow what God wanted. Remember that chant that we learnt last week?
Yes, I do.
Choose the right way for your tomorrows and for today.
Would you like me to sing it to you?
No, don't sing ever again, Dad.
Okay. But I think I can remember it. Choose the right way for all our tomorrows and today.
Yes, that's it.
Fantastic. There's still something going on in this old brain of mine, you know. Good.
You see, the thing is, wisdom is about choosing the right way by following what God says. And I don't think Solomon was very wise for marrying Pharaoh's daughter.
No, I think you're right about that. And of course, she was just the first of many. And it didn't just stop at the wives, did it? It was those gods as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, he built altars and special shrines to other gods that weren't the true God.
Yeah. And given the temple and everything, that's just a really, really silly thing for Solomon to do. I can't quite believe he'd be so foolish.
He was a really foolish king to do what he did.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've been thinking about this so much that I've written a song about it. A song about foolish Solomon. Would you like me to sing it to you?
No thanks, Dad. I really have to go do the shopping just now, and Jemima, she needs a walk. The cat needs a walk, so I'm gonna go.
But cats don't go for walks. Dogs do.
Well, today the cat would like to go for a walk. I'm gonna
all
go.
right then. Bye.
Hi everyone, my name's Liv and we're going to sing a song together about our holy God who welcomes us in as friends when we trust in Jesus. This is a call and response song, but I don't have anyone here to help me, so when I sing a line, you're going to sing it back to me really loudly. Are you ready? God is a holy God. God is a holy... Where did that come from? Oh, hi Alana.
Hi Liv.
Great to have you here.
I thought I'd just pop in and help with the call and response.
Awesome, thanks. Well everyone, follow Alana. God is a holy God. God is a holy God. We can't be friends because of our sin. We can't be friends because of our sin. God is a holy God. God is a holy God. We can't be friends because of
Today's Bible reading for this morning's Sunday Stories for Families can be found in 1 Kings chapter 10, verses 23 to 29, and then some verses in chapter 11. So again, if you've got your Bibles open at home, just follow along. So Solomon had more riches and wisdom than all the other kings on earth. People everywhere wanted to see King Solomon. They wanted to hear the wisdom God had given him. Every year, everyone who came brought a gift. They brought things made of gold and silver, along with clothes, weapons, spices, horses, and mules. So Solomon had many chariots and horses. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 chariot soldiers. He kept some in special cities for the chariots. He kept some with him in Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, silver was as common as stones while Solomon was king. Cedar trees were as common as the fig trees growing on the mountain slopes. Solomon brought in horses from Egypt and Kew. His traders brought them in Kew and brought them to Israel. A chariot from Egypt cost about 600 pieces of silver, and a horse cost about 150 pieces of silver. The traders also sold horses and chariots to the kings of the Hittites and the Arameans. Now chapter 11 and verses 1 to 4. But King Solomon loved many women who were not from Israel. He loved the daughter of the king of Egypt. He also loved women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites. The Lord had told the Israelites, "You must not marry people of other nations. If you do, they will cause you to follow their gods." But Solomon fell in love with these women. He had 700 wives who were from royal families. Now verses 9 to 13. The Lord had appeared to Solomon twice, but Solomon turned away from following the Lord, the God of Israel. So the Lord was angry with him. The Lord had commanded Solomon not to follow other gods, but Solomon did not obey the Lord's command. So the Lord said to Solomon, "You have chosen to break your agreement with me. You have not obeyed my commands. So I promise I will tear your kingdom away from you. I will give it to one of your officers, but I will not take it away while you are alive. This is because of my love for your father David. I will tear it away from your son when he becomes king, but I will not tear away all the kingdom from him. I will leave him one tribe to rule. I will do this because of David my servant, and I will do it because of Jerusalem, the city I have chosen." Hello again, and welcome to Sunday Stories for Families. This is the last time we're going to be thinking about King Solomon. Of course, there's lots more in the Bible about him, and you can maybe read about him at home with Mum and Dad, but this is the last time. Yes, it is sad, Monkey, I agree, it is sad, but there you go. Monkey, have you ever disobeyed anybody? You have? Really? When was that? When your mummy told you not to swing through the trees because you might fall? And what happened? No, you didn't, did you? You fell off and hurt yourself. Yeah, that's what happens when you disobey, isn't it? There are consequences, there are results. Things go wrong. And we're going to see that today, sadly, with King Solomon. He does some very silly things, and because he does silly things, there's consequences, there are results. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? Remember how Solomon, when God asked him what he wanted, Solomon asked for wisdom. And God was so pleased with that he gave Solomon riches. The only problem was Solomon took it further than that, and he made silver and gold in so much abundance that loads of things were made of silver and gold. He became too rich for his own good. And then God also gave him power and strength to protect Israel. But again, Solomon went too far. He had too many chariots and too many horses from Egypt. He just didn't know when to stop. But then the worst thing he did was he went and married Pharaoh's daughter to start with, because he thought having an alliance with Egypt, being friendships with a big country like Egypt, would be fantastically wise. Of course it wasn't. But she was not the only one. He then married loads of other wives from all the surrounding nations, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Moabites, for example, people that God had said very clearly the king of Israel should never marry. Way back in time he'd said that. Let me show you and tell you where that was. If you turn in your Bibles to Deuteronomy chapter 17 and find the little 1-4 number, that's 14, we're going to read Deuteronomy 17 verses 14 to 16 together. So find it in your Bibles and then I'll start reading. When you enter the land the Lord your God has given you, and have taken possession of it and settled in it, and you say, "Let us set a king over us, like all the nations around us," be sure to appoint over you a king the Lord your God chooses. He must be from among your fellow Israelites. Do not place a foreigner over you, one who is not an Israelite. The king, moreover, must not acquire great numbers of horses for himself, or make the people return to Egypt to get more of them, for the Lord has told you, you are not to go back that way again. And he must not take many wives, or his heart will be led astray. He must not accumulate large amounts of silver and gold. Well, God had said that to Israel through Moses before they entered the promised land, the land he promised to give them. But can you see how Solomon ignored everything that God had said there? He got lots more chariots than he should. He got lots more money than he should. And worst of all, he married women that he shouldn't have married. Not because they were bad or evil. It was just that they came from other nations and they didn't love God. And so that's why God said, don't do it, Solomon. Don't do it, any king. And Solomon, do you know, he seems to think he doesn't need to obey God. He disobeys God. And it's disastrous. So we've learned about Solomon's disobedience. But thankfully, that's not the only thing in this story. The second thing that we can see here is that God's plans continue. Because even though God is very angry with Solomon and tells him that he's going to take the kingdom away from his family, in fact, he's going to divide it into two, he still says this. Listen to these words. You can find them again in 1 Kings 11, but this time, verse 13. Listen carefully. Yet, says God, I will not tear the whole kingdom from you, Solomon. I will give you one tribe for the sake of David my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. So, God's saying, it's not going to be all disaster. It deserves to be, and it should be, but because I made a promise to your father David, I'm not going to take the whole lot away from you, Solomon, and your family. And you can find that promise in 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 16. Would you like to turn in your Bibles to that? That's 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 16. And this is what God says to David, years before Solomon was born. He says, David, your house and your kingdom shall last forever. Your throne shall be established, that means be secure, forever. Isn't that amazing? God is saying that David's family line will always have a king. There will never be a time when there isn't a king from David's family line. Now, you know how that was fulfilled, don't you? You know how that came true and is still true today. Because King Jesus was born from David's family line. And King Jesus lives and reigns forever. So even though Solomon disobeyed God, and that was a seriously silly thing to do, God still carried on with his plans. They wouldn't be thwarted. They wouldn't be dumped. They wouldn't be got rid of by Solomon's disobedience. So we've learned about Solomon's disobedience, but thankfully that's not the only thing in this story. The second thing that we can see here is that God's plans continue. Because even though God is very angry with Solomon and tells him that he's going to take the kingdom away from his family, in fact, he's going to divide it into two, he still says this. Listen to these words. You can find them again in 1 Kings 11, but this time verse 13. Listen carefully. Yet, says God, I will not tear the whole kingdom from you, Solomon. I will give you one tribe for the sake of David my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. So, God's saying, it's not going to be all disaster. It deserves to be, and it should be, but because I made a promise to your father David, I'm not going to take the whole lot away from you, Solomon, and your family. And you can find that promise in 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 16. Would you like to turn in your Bibles to that? That's 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 16. And this is what God says to David, years before Solomon was born. He says, David, your house and your kingdom shall last forever. Your throne shall be established, that means be secure, forever. Isn't that amazing? God is saying that David's family line will always have a king. There will never be a time when there isn't a king from David's family line. Now, you know how that was fulfilled, don't you? You know how that came true and is still true today. Because King Jesus was born from David's family line. And King Jesus lives and reigns forever. So even though Solomon disobeyed God, and that was a seriously silly thing to do, God still carried on with his plans. They wouldn't be thwarted. They wouldn't be dumped. They wouldn't be got rid of by Solomon's disobedience.